Three-Side Sports Talk. Todd Kleinheinz, Jerry Sue, and Jeff Krupinski here. The third Wednesday of January, and we are rolling through the NFL playoffs into the NFL offseason. And while other leagues tend to take breaks, the NFL does not. And even though we've been centered on the 49ers and they've been out of the playoffs, there's always something that's popping up. And we're talking about NFL coaches. And we saw that we talked about Robert Saleh going to the Jets, and he's their new head man. And what did that mean for the Niners? And I think things have started to shake out. And that we had LaFleur leave the Niners and go to the Jets. McDaniels gets the promotion to offensive coordinator. They do what we thought was going to happen, and that's promote DeMeco Ryans to defensive coordinator. So a lot happened in Niner land. As all these other teams fill in their coaching spots. And two items of news that kind of came out in the last day or two. One, Dan Campbell gets the job in Detroit, which I thought was going to go to Robert Saleh, but the fact that Campbell gets a 6-year deal, it kind of perked my ears, only because it probably means that it wasn't that 6th year that was the holdup, that if Saleh wanted 6 years, clearly they were ready to give it to Campbell. And a 6-year deal usually means you're starting over and the organization's giving you a couple years to build things up. So does that mean Stafford is going to be on the move? So that was the Detroit thing that caught my ear. And the other one was earlier today, Phillip Rivers announced his retirement. While that, he's got no ties to the Niners. It just means there's another NFL team looking for a starting quarterback. So in the past week, there's been news. What do you guys think?
Yeah, a lot is shaken out. And I think it's just all been a little crazy. I mean, teams didn't just go Oppo Taco. They went Oppo Burrito, Taquito, the whole enchilada. First, you got, as we talked about previously, Urban Meyer, right? He lands in Jacksonville, and I guess Jacksonville's owner, Shad Khan, was willing to overlook Urban's indiscretions at Ohio State and Florida because he's just desperate to make the Jags relevant. And Urban wanted someone who will bow down to him in the NFL. So I guess it's sort of a match from those standpoints. But Urban ain't going to be able to stack the deck like he did in college. And the last time Trent Baalke was GM, he ran the Niners into the ground. So I hope Urban likes players with torn ACLs because that's Baalke's specialty. Right. Then you've got, as you mentioned, the JETS, Jets, who've got a MESS, mess at quarterback. Yet they've empowered Robert Saleh, who's a defensive guy, and Mike LaFleur, a first-time offensive coordinator, with such the monumental decision of either keeping Sam Darnold or drafting a new quarterback with their number 2 pick. And then you've got the Lions, as you mentioned, hiring Dan. Nobody saw this coming, Campbell, and the Chargers hiring Brandon. Didn't I just get here, Staley? Right. Bypassing the top offensive coordinators on the market in Eric Bieniemy and Brian Dable, who've both led their units to the AFC Championship. And among all the hirings, including Arthur Smith in Atlanta, not one has had a prior relationship with their general manager. So as Vince Lombardi would say,
well played, sound man. Right. So absolutely. So Jeff, unpack some of that.
Yeah, I think you laid it out pretty well there. I mean, you went through pretty much all the positions, maybe not the Eagles as well, which that one to me is still surprising that they let Peterson go. And now it seems like they don't even know what they're doing. That's what I saw somewhere online, that the fact that they don't have a guy lined up makes it seem like they didn't know they were going to fire him 2 weeks ago, and they just fired him, and now they don't know what they're doing. And they're looking for McDaniels going to Houston, Dable and Bieniemy, both pretty good candidates, I would think, right? Maybe go to the Chargers, maybe go to Houston. Was that going to happen? Are they still available? I'm surprised they're still available. When you mentioned the Jets, I know Saleh's going there, and we have, a relation or a fondness of Saleh, but I mean, the Jets are still going to be a mess, right? What are they doing at quarterback? Can LaFleur do anything with that situation? I don't know. It's still the Jets, right? The Jets are down there to me with the where the Browns were, the Lions year after year. They haven't done anything in my lifetime. So, good luck there. The Lions with Campbell, didn't see that coming. They're going to probably continue to suck. So that's what I got.
Well, you mentioned the 6-year deal that Dan Campbell got in Detroit. I think usually when you hear of such a deal, it's a signal that it was a job that not a whole lot of people wanted. To get, they needed, somebody said, look, if I'm going to take that job, you're going to have to give me a long-term deal. And, like I said, with Brandon Staley, it's really weird to me how it seems like the days of having to pay your dues is no longer applicable. And the guy who's been here for a couple of years has all of a sudden become the it guy. I mean, maybe they just think like he's the defensive equivalent of Sean McVay. Because I know he was supposedly a guy that the Eagles really wanted, and maybe that's why they moved off of Peterson so quickly.
Well, and not that it affects the Niners too much, because as we saw this year, the Niners handled the Rams both times they played. So their number one defense,
right,
seemed to have been figured out by Shanahan. But what it does, it now requires the Rams to go out and get another defensive coordinator. So, any kind of little issue, not that it's an issue, but you're going to have to go out and find someone to replicate a number one defense. And that's tough. That's tough sledding for anyone. So as the Niners go, maybe the Rams, take a slight step back defensively because they don't have that mastermind running the defense. It was unusual, but as I got to thinking about it, are the Chargers just the Bengals of the West? Like, they don't want to overpay. And so they weren't going to get into a bidding war for Bieniemy, and they weren't going to wait for, Dabble to come. And they saw this guy, and they thought he's lukewarm right now, but if he stayed with the Rams, he's going to be hot next year. So just get him now, and hope he's that guy, opposed to getting into a bidding war.
You think the Chargers are so cheap? They just took a guy that's also in LA, so he didn't have to pay for his moving costs. That's funny. Well, they do have an affinity for first timers, right? And they went from Mike McCoy to Anthony Lynn and now Brandon Staley.
I mean, the thing that was most surprising, I guess, was the fact that they had this kind of lump of clay offense that just needed to be molded. It has the pieces ready to explode. And you're thinking, boy, if they got an offensive guy in there who could design up plays and be creative, this could be an offense that really takes off. And they went, like you said, they went Oppo Taco and went, no, we're okay, our offense is good. Let's get someone to come in here and revamp the defense, which I guess is one way to look at it, because if you're getting Derwin James back and he's a piece, and you got Bosa already signed up, that, I don't, it wasn't the way that I thought they would go, right, personally, but it's the Chargers.
Yeah. I think with some of these hires so far, I know you always say, Todd, who then? But I don't know who the top guy is, but it doesn't seem like anybody went after that guy. I don't care about the Falcons getting this Arthur Smith guy. Don't even know who he is. I could care less. I don't know who the hot guy is, who's the next Shanahan. But at this point, none of these coaches, I don't care. They're all, the Lions will continue to suck. The Jets will continue to suck. I don't care about the Eagles. F Philly, right? The Chargers, whatever. What are they doing? Who knows, dude?
So just happy because everybody's just going to continue to suck.
Exactly.
All these mistakes.
Right. And Jeff,
all those guys will be fired in 3-4 years.
And Jeff is still riding the high of the Browns losing this past weekend. So I mean,
it is interesting. I mean, you mentioned all these guys being hired. It also makes me think back to a lot of these names that we've heard in the past as hot candidates, but they didn't get hired, and then they just have gone away. I remember back in the day when Cam Cameron, the up and coming offensive coordinator, he never got hired and then sort of just petered away. And then that defensive guy, Terrell Austin. I don't even know where he is right now. I'm sure he's a defensive coach or coordinator somewhere, but It's weird. Like he was in the cycle, and then all of a sudden.
But did you guys see this Dan Campbell thing? I was like, who Campbell? Who? And Todd's like,
well, I remember when he took over. Who did he take over for? Was it Miami?
He was the intern in Miami for.
Yeah. I remember him from Miami, but then.
Yeah. So before they went with Gase, I thought they might have given Campbell a shot because he did okay, right?
Yeah.
In the last couple of games after he took over.
What's interesting is and if I had to put money on it, I'd probably put money in Jeff's corner that it's going to be the Lions and they're not going to, resurrect anything. But the idea that he has kind of under the tutelage of Sean Payton and done some things with he's the tight ends coach and the assistant head coach. So he wasn't calling plays, but he does seem to be in that Pete Carroll, Robert Saleh motivator, gets guys to play for him. He played in the league. He can stand before this team and, talk about it. So is he kind of what the NFL owners are looking for? He's the CEO. Go get your offensive side, your defensive side. You're going to be the guy to lead all these guys. So while I'd still put my money in Jeff's corner that it's not going to lead to the promised land. It's their idea of, well, we already tried to pick someone from Bill Belichick's tree and that was disastrous. So let's go somewhere. Let's go offensive. Let's go unknown. Let's go leader, like whatever. So
you're saying Dan Campbell is like Robert Saleh light, or at least in the same ballpark. And that's why they went. And maybe Robert Saleh didn't want that job. Maybe they caught wind that, look, Saleh's got bigger fish to fry. He's a hot candidate. So they probably couldn't get him. So they got perhaps the next best candidate in that same mold.
And the Lions went about their hiring process like the old days. They hired a general manager. Then the general manager hired the head coach. Unlike Urban Meyer, hire the coach and then find a GM who can work with him. Trent Baalke, we'll see, or even Atlanta, Arthur Smith, and then bring in Terry Fontenot. So the Lions went about it kind of your old school way of, top down, the owner to the president, who, to the GM, to the coach. So we'll see. But did you see who just today interviewed for the Chicago Bears defensive coordinator position?
No.
Raheem Morris?
Yeah.
Nolan.
Close. Mike Singletary.
Oh my goodness.
So talk about reaching back into their past. I will say one interesting coaching note as it, circles around and we watch these dominoes fall. The Panthers' new quarterback coach is a guy who, and I just lost his name, but he came from Detroit and he was in Houston before. So he has ties to Deshaun Watson in his first couple of years, and he's got ties to Matt Stafford. And something that was
not Jim Bob Cooter.
Not Jim Bob Cooter. Something that was thrown out earlier this week was, Jerry, you sent the odds for the team that Deshaun Watson will take his next snap from, or who he's going to go to. I don't know how, whatever offshore betting account you partake in, had the odds. And I thought the Panthers as the lead was shocking. Like, where did the Panthers come from? Yes, they need a quarterback of the present and the future, but so do 25 other teams. So the Panthers having the top odds was unusual. Does this mean anything? Did they know this was coming and that this guy has some connection to Deshaun? I don't know. But what as we've gone one week further, any more thoughts on Deshaun?
Well, I think right now the way that the people phrase the question of where should Deshaun be traded, I don't know. It feels a little misguided, because I think what matters most is, where does Deshaun want to go, since he has a no trade clause, right? And if you're Deshaun, I think your number one criteria is that you'd want to go to a team that already has an established nucleus of players on the roster and is poised to win now. So that whatever draft picks your new team gives up won't make that team so much less competitive that he essentially moves to another sucky version of the Texans, which is why Carolina was an interesting choice among the odds makers as the team with the best odds of landing Watson, because I don't see them as that team.
Yeah, I don't see them as a team. I was a little surprising to see that as well. And I was also surprised even to think of, like I said, the Jets or, anybody else like that, right? If you're unhappy with Houston, you want to go to the Jets. What have the Jets ever done? Just because they added solid does not make them a contender all of a sudden. And plus you got to look at tax situation as well. I mean, you go from Houston to New York. I mean, geez, you better restructure your contract. And then, some of these other teams have some sort of nucleus. I mean, I can see Miami for sure. He's mentioned that, of course, our team, we're going to say that. Maybe there's some others in there that might make sense, but some of those Carolina, Jets, Lions, I mean, I don't see why he would do that and waive his no trade.
Yeah, I don't think it makes sense to be traded to a team like the Jets. Sorry, Richard Sherman.
Right.
Because the Jets are rebuilding from the ground up and they need their picks, right? Same with the Raiders. I've seen the Raiders in the mix because their defense is so awful. They're going to need their picks to rebuild via the draft. And the same can be said for teams that are severely over the cap, like the Saints and the Falcons and even the Steelers, right? And you also want it to be in a situation where the coaching staff is stable. People have mentioned the Bears, but Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace, they're on thin ice and they've got cap issues while trying to re-sign their own players like Allen Robinson. And people have mentioned the Broncos, but come on, Vic Fangio, we talked about him. He's got one foot out the door. And if the Texans have any say at all, I'm sure they'd prefer to move Deshaun out of the AFC and definitely out of the AFC South. So that's why I don't see the Jaguars or the Colts being players in the Deshaun sweepstakes either. So, what teams are ready to win now?
Well, let me put it to you this way, because we have been talking about, and Jerry kind of talked about this right at the beginning of this. Where does Deshaun want to go? So let's take that out of the equation, because as much as he may want to, because from what we've heard, he wants out of Houston. Now there's been some rumblings and rumors of Miami and things like that, but let's take away what does Deshaun want. If you're the Texans and you've gotten to the point where you're not gonna mend the fences, right? We're already too far down the road, and outside of the owner coming out and saying we love Deshaun, in fact, we're going to give him a new contract, and we're firing this Easterby guy who's been causing this problem, and we're going to hire Eric Bieniemy. Outside of doing all that, and you're the Texans, and you've gone down this road of it's not going to work. We've got to trade him. So let me throw a couple scenarios out to you guys, because as much as I would love for the Niners to make a play for Deshaun, they don't have the assets to bring him to the Niners without overpaying what other teams can do. For example, if you're Miami, you can give up the number 3 pick, your second round pick this year. So you're getting a 1, a 2, and then next year's 1 and 2. Okay. So if you're the Dolphins, you can give up, which that would seem like a legit package, 2 1s, 2 2s. And you could throw Tua into that situation if Houston wants it. But because you're getting the number 3 pick, you would have your shot at, well, either Justin Fields or Wilson, probably not Lawrence. So you would have your pick of one of those guys. So already there's, you got 2 2s, 2 1s, 2 2s. And Miami, and like Jeff said, Florida, 0 income tax, so state income tax. So he doesn't have to do that. If you're the Jets, you can throw in the number 2 pick and again, 2 1s, 2 2s, because both of those teams have 2 number 1s this year. So they're still going to be able to have a play, get their own. They're going to trade a 1 and keep a 1. So these couple teams have significantly more assets than the Niners, where the Niners 12-43, that's kind of the best they can do, unless you're going to throw in Nick Bosa, type of thing. So if you put yourself in the Texans' shoes, and I agree that now with Rivers gone, even if Indianapolis makes the call to Houston, we're not going. We're not trading him. We're not facing him twice a year. So what are your thoughts on now? I know, Jeff, you hate the Jets, but if you're Houston, don't think of it from Deshaun's point. If you're Houston and you can get 2 1s, 2 2s, and both of those number ones are in the top 5, isn't that kind of where you're leaning?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, even if you can get maybe an additional one, possibly one of those teams, right? Or both have 2 1s this year.
Both of those teams have 2 1s.
Right. So I mean, if you can get 2 1s and then a 1 next year, or whatever the price tag is going to be, sure. I mean, yeah, I'm not worried about where he wants to go if that's the scenario. I mean, first of all, I think I'm not even sure if I trade Deshaun, that I don't know if I even feel he's going to be traded, right? But if so, yeah, Miami and the Jets totally make more sense. I understand that.
Jerry?
Okay, so I will play along because I do believe that it matters what Deshaun thinks and that it really doesn't matter. It matters much less what the Texans want, but I'll play along. Hold
on.
Yes.
But I assume you're couching that because he has a no trade clause.
Correct.
Okay, but his no trade clause isn't you can set, I want to go to this team. Right. Like if the Texans come to him and say, all right, Deshaun, here are the five teams that we've gotten offers from. And, so, I mean, if you're the Texans, you're not giving them away, and some of these teams are coming with 2 1s, 2 2s. I mean, at that point, it doesn't matter what Deshaun wants, because all the Texans have to do is go, we are doing what you want. We're getting you out of here. Here are the teams that have come with offers. Who do you want to go to? Okay,
that's fair. But at the same time, if they aren't teams that Deshaun wants to go to, or if they're not the preferred teams, and I know you've said this previously that, he's not just going to sit out. You don't know that. He could sit out.
He absolutely could sit out. He could pull.
Because remember, here's the thing that I think
what no one else has ever done.
Correct. Well, none of this has ever happened at all, that a top 5 quarterback in his prime at the age of 25 may get traded and will get traded for, I'm sure, a Herschel Walker sized haul, right? We all believe that. If that happens. None of this has ever happened, right? But, quarterbacks, as we've seen, how old is Tom Brady? How old is Phillip Rivers? How old is Drew Brees and all these guys? They're playing until they're 40, right? So I think if he really wants to, to dictate where he goes right now, he could easily just say, you know what? I'm going to hold your guys' feet to the fire, and I'm going to threaten to sit out the year.
Sure.
Where I want to go.
Absolutely. But,
right?
But it doesn't.
So then going back to the scenario where you're saying, all these other teams have more to give. I guess you could say, as far as this year is concerned, right? Like you're saying, well, the Dolphins can give back Houston's number 3 pick, or the Jets can give their number 2 pick. Okay, I see that. But as far as like the overall package, I don't agree that these teams can give more than Niners. I think each team, whatever is being traded to Houston for Deshaun, will in essence be the same. It is what it is. You're going to have to give up likely 3 1s and a 2, somewhere along the lines, right? So maybe the initial one looks a little bit better. So that's why I'm saying, like, the idea that, we have to take this team's, offering because it's so much better. I don't know about that. And like I said, with the Jets, if the Jets give up all these picks, aren't they basically the same crappy team that Deshaun's played with already, except now that he's in New York and, has to pay the New York taxes? So I don't see how New York for Deshaun would be a better, would be a place that he would approve. And furthermore, if I'm Houston, I think the number one thing for me is I'm getting him out of the AFC South. I mean, there's no way he's going to be going to a team there. And not only that, but I don't even want to send him to an AFC team, right? Like, you don't want Deshaun to be with a team where, hey, look at who's in the AFC Championship again, Deshaun Watson and whatever new team, right?
Sure. I mean, but yeah, yes.
So that's the way I would look at it. And I understand you're saying, well, what if those teams can give more than other teams? I think at the end of the day, these teams know the price tag. It's not like, wow, Deshaun really wants to go to the Niners and they're only going to give you Robbie Gold. Dang it.
No, absolutely. But that's the thing. Like if you're the Texans,
yes,
unless the Niners are giving significantly more.
But why do they have to give significantly more than the other team? Why not the same?
Because a top 5 pick means I'm getting one of the rookie quarterbacks. Like if I'm the Texans and I'm like, I'm trading Deshaun, here's the price tag. It's a top 5 pick this year. It's a number 2 this year. It's a number 1 next year, and it's a number 2. That's the starting point. Because so if you're that's why I'm saying it's significantly more. The Niners can only, unless they finagle things and trade up into the top 5 or 7, whatever, they're not getting you get more by getting that top 5 pick because you get a quarterback, you get a rookie quarterback, or you can get Tua, or you can get Darnold, or you can get whatever, and a top 5 pick.
And I guess it just also depends on how Houston, I think the quarterback position is really an important question because it really depends on what Houston thinks or how Houston feels about who they can get, let's say at 2 or 3, right? Because you're saying, well, what if I were, Nick Caserio? What would I? Maybe if I'm Nick Caserio, I'd be like, you know what? This is not ideal, but I'd rather have Jimmy Garoppolo as my quarterback, right? Like for the time being, and I'll take all these other assets, all these draft assets from the Niners because I know Jimmy Garoppolo. I can trust Jimmy Garoppolo. Granted, we all have issues with him for whatever reason, him not being on the field, whatever, but these two have a relationship going back to New England, and who knows what's going to happen with the head coaching hire. And that's probably, the biggest decision before any of this can happen anyway, because let's say they just can't, without Deshaun's commitment to staying in Houston, who's to say who they can get to take that job? And what if they have to turn to a guy that, like a Josh McDaniels, beg him to come, and then they have, that type of connection and prior relationship with the Garoppolo. That's why I'm just saying this, to say, well, what does the Houston want? That's a much more difficult, I think.
That's the quandary in this scenario, right? Is because a lot of these other teams might be able to offer more, but then Deshaun still has to waive his no trade clause. So
right. And the more, it's like, is the more really going to
hard to say? Of course, you want to get
significantly more, or is it all going to be pretty similar? Right. And I hear you what you're saying, like, oh, we got the number 12 pick. They got the number 2 or number 3, if it is the Jets and Miami. But again, Deshaun would still have to sign off on it. And you're still getting these first round picks. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then what I was going to add earlier is, what position are you going to be in if you give up all these assets? So even if you are willing to give up all these assets, like for the 49ers, if they were able to give up, say, 3 firsts, but they have a better nucleus already in place and a better coaching staff already in place, right? And so then Deshaun doesn't have to go there and then be without all these picks that are going to make his team better. If you go to the Jets, and it's like, well, then you have no picks, and you're just like the Houston. So
but that's what I'm saying. You're not, because the Jets have 2 1s this year and 2 1s next year. They can give up a 1 this year and a 1 next year, and they're still in both of those rounds.
If I'm Houston and he has to stay in the AFC, I'm going to ask for both this year, right? Or I'll ask for both next year and 1 this year. So I'm saying like because they have it, they can give it.
Right.
So when you're saying if you're saying, okay, I'll play this game with you for even further. Yes, the Jets can offer more, but that means they'd have to give up all these picks immediately. Then what's Deshaun left with, right? So ultimately, Deshaun would be stuck in a bad situation again in New York, in my opinion.
I understand. I'm just
You're saying that New York can give up more, and that would be more.
Yeah, no. My entire point was coming at it from a Niner point of view of the only way to get Deshaun, which has been kind of, the swirling hope, around in media land and 49er land, is they've got to say, we're giving you, they'd have to overpay by giving up these more picks, because in order for so if you're the Niners, you say, we're giving you 4 number 1 picks. We're giving you 4 ones. That means the Niners will be without a number 1 for 4 years. If you're the Jets, we're giving you 4 number 1s. We could take care of that in 2 years. We'll give you those 4, and so come 2024. That's what I'm saying is if it's in order for the Niners to compete in the trade, on the trade table.
Well, would giving them Jimmy and say 2 number 1s be considered overpaying as well? Because now you have that relationship with Casario and Jimmy, and you have your starting quarterback, and that's overpaying, whereas the Jets can't give you that. Maybe.
I think it starts with 3 number 1s and Jimmy. I think that's where it starts. Yeah. And basically, no, I mean, to your point, Todd, I mean, the Niners, to me, the Niners are the best landing spot for Deshaun, but it'll be very difficult for them to land him, right? I agree with that. I mean, it basically would entail Deshaun telling Houston, this is where I want to go. Right. Make a deal. That's probably the only way that he ends up in San Francisco. That Deshaun literally tells them, I don't want to go anywhere else. Make a deal happen, right?
Yeah.
And it'll start with 3 number 1s and Jimmy. I think that's where it starts, especially when you look at the kind of packages that were traded for a Jalen Ramsey. I mean, I believe he was traded for 2 number 1s. Laramie Tunsil, 2 number 1s. I think Khalil Mack was that 2 number 1s, right? So you're talking about in his prime, 25-year-old top 5 quarterback. It starts with 3 number 1s.
So another team on the list was the Raiders, with higher odds to land Deshaun than the Niners, which I thought was unusual. Again, who knows what these odds makers know or don't know or are guessing, but does that at all mean that, Mariota or Carr could be part of, obviously they would have to probably be part of a package to Houston, but are either of those quarterbacks available? Are you interested for the Niners? And what would it take to get them?
Yeah, I think both of them would go, right? But I think it'd just be weird. That's why I don't even really take the Raiders, I guess the Raiders being involved in the conversation seriously. I take it seriously because I could see Gruden and Mayock being crazy enough to do it. But at the same time, it just doesn't make sense. Like we talked about earlier, their defense is so awful. Address that. I mean, Gus Bradley's probably, dude, I just signed up to coach this team and I'm going to have nothing to deal, nothing. I don't want to have any players to play with. And then as far as Derek Carr, well, Houston's not going to want Derek Carr for the same reason why they didn't draft him, right? They're not going to go through having another Carr as the quarterback.
Yeah.
Right. And if Deshaun does go to the Raiders, then yeah, I mean, I'm sure Derek will be traded somewhere. And I'm sure Mariota is I'm not going to back up Deshaun Watson. So, and again, they're not going to pay Mariota $10 million to be the backup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't really see that scenario playing out. I don't know why the Raiders are mentioned. Maybe just for fun, or just because
Gruden's crazy.
They got 2 guys. I don't know. That didn't make much sense to me to see the Raiders on there. But yeah, if Mariota's available, then I guess we can go down that road again, like we talked about weeks back. I'm sure he'd be available.
So yeah, again, as the dominoes start to fall and the rumors start to circulate, it's going to be interesting to see how these guys, coaches, how the coaches fall, how the players fall, and then what leads up to that. So
actually, real quick before we move off this topic, I think the one team we haven't talked about is Washington. I think Washington could be a sneaky play because, they've got the defense, right? They have a few pieces on offense. They might be able to deal some of these picks. They get Deshaun Watson, So they could be a sneaky team for as far as I'm concerned to get in on this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're definitely a quarterback needy. I mean, that's for sure.
I totally agree. I mean, that's why. I mean, again, that's why as you look at it from all points of view, like, okay, first of all, would Deshaun go there? Because, like we said, he's got some leverage. Do they have something that the Texans would want? Sure, because they got picks, because they don't have, they got their defense and they have some pieces, and I don't know what their cap situation is, but could they supplement in free agency what they need? So, and it's an NFC team, so you only have to see them, once every 4 years type of thing. So it's absolutely an interesting.
And a team that I think for sure, I shouldn't say for sure, but likely will not be in on it as well are the Patriots. I mean, I know that they have their connection with Nick Caserio, but I just cannot foresee McNair and Easterby signing off and giving New England their next franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I would agree with, and it would go against everything Belichick has ever done. I mean, for every Randy Moss that he brings in, they're a team that, offloads guys for draft picks, and you're kind of like, what's going on with Chandler Jones for a second, and Mankins, and Jacoby Brissett, and like all of these, like they send guys for picks rather than picks for players.
And when they get players, they never overpay. Remember, they got Randy Moss for like a 4th round pick.
Yeah, exactly. So
I see Belichick probably drafting a guy like a Mac Jones or something like that instead of trading for Deshaun for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that I mean, again, we've covered it as much as can be covered, and that's available unless anyone has some deep insider knowledge. So let's get back to Jeff's happy weekend, and that being the Browns losing, even though they gave them a run for their money. That fumble through the end zone for the touchback. I don't know. I didn't hear specifically, but that's got to be, if not the worst, one of the worst rules in football and all of sports. Make me, commissioner of the league, and that's one of the things that I would completely wipe away.
It just doesn't make any sense,
no,
right? To give the opposing team the football when they never even recovered it, just because it went out of the end zone.
Exactly.
Well, hopefully they take a look at it since it happened in a prime playoff game. They take a look at it now.
What's
fresh
weird?
In memory.
What's weird though is, so I was listening to, I think, Mike Pereira on KNBR the other day, and he supports the rule. And in fact, it's been a rule that's been in place for so long, and anytime anybody's trying to challenge it, it never gets changed. So I don't really understand why the rule is still in place.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't make sense, like you said, because if he fumbles it, a foot earlier, it's Cleveland.
Anywhere else. Yeah.
Right. It's Cleveland ball at that point, and it's not like, the opposition, it's not like the defense jumped on it or even touched it. And it's like, it's not even the whole who touched it last. It's no, you fumble it. We're going to give it to them. Not even where it went out. We're going to give them good field position at the 20. So, but I guess as Jeff would say, that's just the Browns being the Browns.
Well, yeah, it kind of was just the Browns. Who else could that have happened to, right? But I wasn't so much like against the Browns. I mean, I was watching that game going, well, if Mahomes is out, I think I texted you this, I don't want to see the Henny play in the AFC Championship game. I mean, give me the Browns. That's fine.
Hey, but come on. The most exciting moment of the weekend involved, of all players, Chad Henne. Right? I mean, I can't believe that guy I couldn't even believe that guy was still in the league, first of all. I definitely couldn't believe that he could still run the way he did on that 3rd and 14 play.
Which is what I was thinking at the time. The Browns don't deserve to get there. If you give up a 3rd and 14 on a scramble to Chad Henne, jeez.
But the best play then, right, was the next play when everyone, including Tony Romo on the broadcast, was like, oh yeah, they're just lining everybody up, pretending like they're going to snap and hoping someone's going to jump. But then
he was in shotgun.
Snap the ball. And yeah, talk about a great play and execution by the Chiefs to seal the game. But as Todd knows, I'm a huge proponent of going for it on 4th and 1 or less. So, and not only that, but not running it up the middle.
Yeah.
Right. Come up with something else, right?
Yeah, be creative. And that was creative.
Well, I mean,
but was it the Browns game? I can't remember now. When they punted with like 5 minutes left.
yeah, that was
the Browns. I thought the same thing at that time. Like you just punted the game away and you don't get the ball back.
Yep.
I mean, you had to go for it there, right?
Yep.
Season's over.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that either. I mean, I'm sure it was like 4th.
It was
relatively long. Like
it was 4th and 9
like
from about the 31. So I mean, but
Right.
you're right.
Yeah, but
You punted
and the
away.
play calling up to, I think the problem was the play calling up till that point, so that they were 4th and 9.
Right.
Exactly. But so I mean, it sets up a championship weekend of Bills Chiefs, which has the potential just to be, one of those pinball game scoring machines if Mahomes is playing. And then you got, the old wise men, Tom Brady playing another old wise man in Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if the tundra will be frozen, but I would imagine it's going to be cold. So early thoughts on either of those games, the ones you're looking forward to or what you think is going to happen?
I'm just rooting for Buffalo because I don't know. I'm just on board with circling the wagons, and I love how all the Buffalo fans, they like donate to these charities to help these players. Donating to Lamar Jackson's charity because he got a concussion. I don't know. Just rooting for Buffalo. Maybe also because Josh Allen, kid from California. Love the story. Love how Buffalo's made it thus far. And Green Bay. For me, Green Bay, just because, I'm a Cal guy. Aaron Rodgers is a Cal guy. So, and this could be, come on. Tom Brady's had how many? Like 20 Super Bowls already. So, throw Aaron Rodgers another one. But it's going to be interesting, right? Because when you watch guys like Brady and Aaron Rodgers, are they not like the ultimate cheat code quarterbacks? Right? They're so old and they played so long. There's like no defense they haven't seen and no adjustment they don't know how to make. So it should be a good game.
Yeah. Well, I'm just glad these are the matchups. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak for everybody, but these are the matchups that I wanted to see, or these teams anyway. I just hope that Mahomes is healthy enough to go. I don't really have a rooting interest in that one. I just want to see a good game. So hopefully Mahomes is good to go. If the Bills take it, I'm fine with that. Get the Bills back in there again. That's a good story. Tom, I mean, just keeps winning no matter what team he's on. Just AFC, NFC championship games. But the way the Packers are playing right now, I think the Packers would have that. I mean, we'll see. I mean,
that Bucs D though, man, that Bucs D was for real.
I would say the Bucs defense surprised me with their linebacker play and all that. But I would say Aaron Rodgers is playing pretty good right now. So.
I would say I have no real problem with 3 of these teams winning a Super Bowl. I want nothing to do with the Bucs, Tom Brady, Antonio Brown. I have no desire to see any of those Bruce Arians.
Yeah, Bruce Arians.
One of those just, I don't know why I don't like him, but he just is bothersome to me. So if it's,
didn't we talk about this from the start when Tom Brady chose to sign with the Buccaneers? Like, hey, where's the Super Bowl that's coming? Oh, Tampa. Oh.
Yeah, Tampa.
Yeah. So
I saw this coming a little bit.
Yeah, I will absolutely be rooting for the Packers in the first game, and I'm with you. I hope it's a good high scoring game. I think I'll probably end up leaning Bills slightly in my rooting interest. But it's shaping up at least to be 2 good, probably high scoring championship games. And no matter which teams make it, setting up for a Super Bowl that can also, put up some points, which is always entertaining and fun. So we'll see what happens over for championship Sunday. So, but that's going to kind of put a bow on NFL stuff. I will say that 2 things that caught my eye this past week. One, did you guys happen to see the Tiger Woods documentary?
Not yet.
You know, it was interesting. It was interesting. But you're talking
Interesting, shocking, or interesting how?
Like, definitely watch it.
I would watch it because, like I said, it was interesting to see. It was split into two parts, with the first part being how, I mean, you forget how dominant this guy was as a golfer, you know, when those 97, 98 to like 2000, like he was just so dominant. It was incredible.
With the ladies, apparently.
You know,
Who knew?
So, you know, that was the first half. And then the second half got into his, you know, later years, the divorce, the arrest, the problems in Vegas, all that kind of stuff. And that wasn't quite as entertaining because, well, every single one of the people who was interviewed clearly had an axe to grind. It was either a caddy who had been fired and no longer talks to him. It was a girlfriend who, you know, had talked to him for years and now has never received a phone call. I mean, everyone had a little bit of an axe to grind in terms of, you know, why they're upset and, you know, they want, you know, their pound of flesh. So it was just, like I said, it was just interesting to see such a dominant athlete. And it was the type of thing that, you know, I wasn't a big golf fan. I wasn't watching, you know, you kind of peeked in on Sunday on the leaderboard if Tiger was up there just to see what this phenom was. But boy, the things he did and the things he did from, and I was wondering, and maybe this is why I'm pretty confident my kids won't reach that level, is because the amount of video footage that they had of Tiger at like every single event, every day of his life, everything, like they're talking, they're like, why would you have a camera at this point talking to a kid about golf? Like, hey, oh, you're 3. Aren't you going to be the greatest one day? Oh yeah.
Well, he was bred, right? He was pretty much bred to be this guy. I mean, he was a prodigy from the start. He was, I want to say, where his initial sort of claim to fame was he was on the Tonight Show, right?
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, but it was like all 4 those
5.
Yeah. But like I said, it's worth it. The one thing that I will fully endorse watching is it's a documentary called Icarus. It's on Netflix. It was recommended to me, and it was the type of thing that someone said, you really should watch this. You're kind of a, you know, you're into sports, but you enjoy the action, the political thriller, the drama of things. I'm like, okay. So I didn't read about it. I didn't watch a trailer. I just threw it on, and I was absolutely hooked in terms of the fact that you get to the end and you go, wait a minute, this wasn't a scripted Jason Bourne movie that I just watched. This was actual real life. Oh, that makes it even more interesting.
Or movie?
What's that?
Documentary or a movie?
It's a 2-hour documentary on Netflix.
Okay.
Icarus. So
good. Check it out.
Those are my final thoughts, you know, as recommendations. Jerry.
All right. Well, so today my final thought involves a beer. Today I am drinking. Can you see it? I don't know if you can see it. Joe IPA from 10 Barrel Brewing in Oregon. I'm not a huge IPA guy. It's one of those beers for me that I like to drink depending on my mood. But this one is appropriate for 2 reasons. Number one, in honor of Joe Biden's inauguration as the 46th president of the United States. And number 2, because of Joe Montana. So you're wondering, why is Joe Montana even part of this discussion? Well, I'm not sure if you guys saw, but on Instagram, there was a picture of Deshaun Watson in a Joe Montana throwback jersey. So I'm hoping, and not only that, but he made it a point to find it and comment on it. So I'm hoping there's still some Montana magic left.
Yeah.
And that magic will put Deshaun Watson on the Niners this season.
Yeah, there you go.
So
I thought you were going to say Joe Montana because all of a sudden he's making more appearances in commercials like on Guinness. That Notre Dame commercial, yeah.
He is collecting some more paychecks. So yeah, if you have final thoughts.
Let's see. Not really. Nothing prepared or anything like that. Just looking forward to Championship Sunday, I guess. Yeah, nothing else to add. No beer of choice. Just sitting back, drinking my red wine on the nightly, I guess.
Well, let me, as they say in the political world, Jeff has yielded his time, so allow me to take those 30 seconds. And that is, does my background, and for those of you just listening audio-wise, you can't see it, but Jeff and Jerry, the background, do you know what that is?
My guess is it's from the Super Bowl 1984 between the Niners and Dolphins.
That is absolutely
Stanford Stadium.
That is absolutely correct. And the reason it's up there, because that Super Bowl happened on this day 36 years ago. So 36 years ago, for you old men out there who remember that Super Bowl, and you remember that was the Niners going 15-1. That was the unbeatable Dan Marino bringing the Marx Brothers to Stanford Stadium. That was the Niners' #1 defense going in there. That was Wendell Tyler, the leading rusher in the game. That was Roger Craig setting the record for 3 touchdowns as a fullback in the game. That was my
Roger Craig, Hall of Famer, should be Hall of Famer Roger Craig.
Well, he'd have to go in as a fullback because, again, was not getting the carries. But yes, I again just stumbled upon this day in history, and as it was podcast day, having a picture of Super Bowl 19, Niners Dolphins, Niners winning just seemed apropos. So
yeah, very good.
Nice walk down memory lane, but. Was your goal trying to make us feel old today with the whole Tiger
36 years ago, man?
Hey, if you guys aren't feeling as old as I am every day of your life right now, then I need to take what you guys are taking, because, getting up from the chair without creaking and popping, that's an accomplishment in itself. So
yeah, it's getting harder and harder, right?
It's getting harder and harder. So I will say, anyways.
Old man.
Well, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for listening. This was, as always, entertaining. I look forward to a continued rambunctious discussion, especially as the dominoes start falling. We have a few days before Championship Sunday, and then we get to, get into the hype of the Super Bowl as well as the offseason. So for Three Side Sports Talk, thank you. Good night.
But that's how it goes.